My name's Joanna and I live in Stevenage in Hertfordshire with my husband Roland and our two children Matilda and Charlie. Matilda and Charlie both have a sight impairment, but Charlie also has X-linked ichthyosis and he also has autism, ADHD. I would say, but the skin is your largest organ and it's the most protective, and it is the one part of your body that gets the most contact and abuse every day, and it affects absolutely everything you do. It affects physically how you move, how you are, how your brain can focus. It's not just skin. Yeah, there's a real misconception from everybody, from our family, friends, you know, even our kind of nearest family don't see it. They don't see what we go to, the lengths that we go to. They're not here at 5 o'clock in the morning when I'm getting up to run a bath. They're not here in the middle of the night when I'm crawling in his bed to try and keep his skin well. They don't see that side of it. And even with general public, when you're talking to people, because he is well and it looks good, they don't appreciate the severity of it. So particularly in school setting where I'm saying we need to control this, he needs to have these creams applied, and the reaction I get is, well, he looks fine, so why do we need to go to this effort of adding this extra process in? And it's really frustrating because he can turn very quickly and I'm just not prepared to allow that to get to the point where it looks bad for somebody to take notice. So it's very, it goes under the radar, and it can be really hard because it feels like the effort I put in, he's the only one that, you know, sees the benefit of that. And he's the most important, but sometimes it would be nice to have other people to actually understand and acknowledge that I do go to those lengths. And, you know, I haven't had a full night's sleep in 8 years because of dealing with his skin and helping him be as healthy as he can. So Charlie was initially diagnosed with X-linked ichthyosis when he was 14 months old. She'd recognised X-linked, which was quite a relief because we'd had a full year of struggling with skin symptoms, and he'd been a NICU baby and we'd had failure to thrive and really slow development, so he was unable to hold his head properly. He didn't sit until he was 11 months old, and it was only the wonderful dermatologist that we saw eventually recognised the symptoms, and then she referred us to a genetic dermatologist, Dr. Close, who then arranged blood tests that were carried out to confirm that Charlie had X-linked and that I was a carrier of X-linked. I had no knowledge of X-linked before Charlie came along. It's something that I'd no information on at all, no knowledge of. The only information I was told was that it's a lifelong condition, it can be managed, and that my child would likely have some form of retardation, which is a beautiful term that medical professionals like to use, which I was shocked by hearing that term, I think, because in a day and age where we're very open to people with learning disabilities, to still hear doctors say your child will be retarded is quite a shocking situation, and it leaves a lot of questions. I felt very much that the diagnosis would help me find a solution, and then I ended up with more questions than I had answers at diagnosis. The real turning point for us was finding the Ichthyosis Support Group. I kind of read every page on the website from top to bottom and back up again, and it was a real relief actually to find some detailed information and guidance, and then going through all the different details of treatments and what's available, and I kind of registered immediately with the website as well, and I got this huge information pack which was just groundbreaking for me at the time. I got this big envelope and it came from the door, and I was like, oh, and all of this information on how I could help my child was just such a release and a relief for me, that I was able to progress and move forward. So having all of the right information was a huge relief for me, and it made me feel more empowered, gave me so much more confidence in what I was doing, and gave us a real direction for treatment. There's a huge bit of me that feels guilt for being the fact that I'm the reason Charlie has ichthyosis, and people can wrap it up in any way they like, but that's a big issue that I have to kind of have in my head, and I do have in my head a lot. And actually having the support of a really great organisation is really helpful for me personally, not just for Charlie. The ISG page was amazing because I actually was able to find information specifically on X-linked, which was really hard to sift through on the general internet, whereas for having on ISG website there was specific area for X-linked, and the detail of information was far deeper than I'd been given from our doctors on the NHS, which was so helpful. Just like great amount of information on what to expect, other people's experiences as well, was really valuable. We have only actually made it to one event, just because of scheduling with other medical needs that we've had. So we made it to the Liverpool event, which was amazing. We had a great time there, and we're actually booked in for the next one as well. So we're really looking forward to this year's family conference. The family conference that we went to in Liverpool was so valuable, not just with making contacts with people, but with regards to kind of making contact with the industry as well for different treatment options, different creams, getting to have contact and discussions with people who are actually making treatments was really helpful as well. So it was really valuable, and it was nice to be not just the only one, and I got to talk to other people who have X-linked children, and it was nice to have somebody that has X-linked specifically, because within the community there's lots of people that have other variants, but X-linked has its own challenges that are quite separate, especially as Charlie is autistic. That's something that's very different, and having other people that are in the same boat where we're not formally diagnosed, we have our suspicions, that was a really nice environment to be in. So Charlie's regime has adjusted and kind of been very organic over the years. When we initially started after diagnosis, we probably spent 18 months trialling all different treatments, different creams, different lotions, different bathing routines, and for quite a long time he was set to 2 baths a day, morning and night. So our main routine is that we start about 5 o'clock in the morning. We have our first bath of the day. If we're running late, he might have to have breakfast in the bath, depending on how touch and go it is. And then he has his creams applied after he's been exfoliated. We use bath oils as well to help hold that moisture. He then has cream reapplied mid-morning, lunchtime, and then mid-afternoon. We do that with a spray emollient. So emollient is one of the most important sprays and treatments that we use each day. We use this all day, every day. It's really vital for us, not just for Charlie's skin's appearance, but if his skin isn't well, he's not well. So it affects his concentration, his ability to engage, his behaviour changes when he's uncomfortable. If he's in school and he's feeling itchy and sore, he can't learn. He's not able to engage in that environment. So keeping his skin as well as can be is so vital for every aspect of his life, not just keeping his appearance healthy. It's about his emotional, mental health and well-being. And at night time while he's asleep, we apply 2 to 3 layers of creams throughout the night, which we do while he's asleep, because he just cannot tolerate those creams anymore. Over the last year, we've managed to, his morning bath has been reduced, so we do it 4 mornings a week rather than every day, which really helps with being in school, because we found the shift to going to full-time school very tricky with maintaining his routine. A lot of the information I've absorbed once I had my diagnosis and I'd got in touch with the ISG, I then kind of looked at the community as a whole, and there's a really strong ichthyosis community, which has been wonderful. And I was able to actually make contact with a woman called Paula, who I went and visited her, and she had a little boy at the same time as me, and we both had children with X-linked, and so it was really nice to have that community. But within that are so many tips and advice, and lots of people have tried different combinations of creams, added glycerin, added different, even natural oils. And one of the big tips that we benefit from is for dealing with his head, because that's a real sticking point for us, is that we use a lice comb, a metal lice comb, to comb out the flakes of skin off of his head. And that works incredibly well, but it's something I'd never thought of without the community being able to kind of advise and recommend what they do. Before that, I was using soft brushes because I thought, well, that's going to be more gentle. But the lice comb, we use a bit of almond oil just to make his hair a little bit more slippery, and comb through to remove the scales from his head. So that's been a real help. One of the biggest challenges I think that we face is Charlie's temperature regulation. It's something that we constantly are battling, whether it's the summer or the winter. You know, even this year, Charlie ended up very, very unwell at Christmas because he overheated at school. You know, they've got all the windows and doors open, and yet he's the only child that can overheat in the middle of winter, and that's been a huge challenge for us to control. So we have to use a lot of preventative measures. So I'm very cautious of his physical activity, making sure that if he is more physical, that he has very good rest periods, that he has enough fluids on board, because he struggles to retain the moisture that he takes in. So at school he has a 2-litre jug that sits on his desk, and he's challenged throughout the day to drink that while he's at school, because again, he doesn't always know when he's overheating. He doesn't recognise that he's hot quite often. He needs a high level of adult intervention, because he'll wear a jumper and not even realise until he's very ill that he's been hot all day. So in school he has a cooling mat as well as a desk fan. So the cooling mat is a big crash mat that's a gel layer, so he can kind of pull that out and sit down and cool himself down when he needs to. We also have a small version of that that goes in the car seat and also in his wheelchair, so that he always has the option of kind of cooling himself down. Multiple fans that we have everywhere, desk fans, fans that clip onto his wheelchair. We even had to go to the extent of fitting air conditioning into his bedroom, and he has an air conditioner that runs every night, along with a fan every night all year round, to try and combat his overheating at night time particularly. I think I'd say to new parents of newly diagnosed or undiagnosed that there is a solution. It might seem like a mountain to climb where nothing seems to work, but there will be something that will help. And that not necessarily what doctors or professionals have to say is the actual fact, and that every case is very different, even between people that have the same type of ichthyosis. All the experiences are very different, and what works for one will not work for the rest. Unfortunately, it's a trial and error for treatment, but there is light at the end of the tunnel, and there is a lot of people out there who can support you. I think the big issue when you're newly diagnosed or before you're diagnosed is feeling very isolated and feeling very lonely, and not knowing what the right solution is and not knowing what the answers are can be really scary and just so isolating. That actually there is a community that can support you and there are options.